Q2 and a very good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the MSBS Weekly Guided Meditation by Phra Goh. Today is the 24th of October 2023. I'd like to extend a great welcome to all new viewers to this channel. We are very grateful to have with us 𝐵𝐻 Adhibalo, popular known as Phra Goh, conduct this weekly session. 𝐵𝐻 was born on July 14, 1985 and was ordained under the tradition of Thai Dhamma sect at Santi Monastery, Johor in 2008. 𝐵𝐻 is currently the religious advisor to Buddhist Youth Network Singapore. This week we are continuing on the subject of the 10 perfections. 𝐵𝐻 will be leading the homage to the Buddha and taking of 5 precepts for Buddhists. Now let's compose our minds, put our palms together and welcome 𝐵𝐻. Over to you, 𝐵𝐻.
Okay, thank you, Terence. So we start off with the paying respects to the Buddha by giving 3 bows. First bow, second bow, third bow. Okay, then the homage. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. 3 refuges. Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Saṅghāṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Saṅghāṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Saṅghāṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. And the 5 precepts. Pāṇātipātā vēramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Adinādāna vēramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Kāmesu micchācārā vēramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Musāvādā vēramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Suramēraya majjapamādātāna vēramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, so good evening, everyone. Tonight we are continuing the second lesson on the 10 perfections. So last week we've covered on the, talking a bit on the past Buddhas. So today we're just going to cover back on the first slide again, talking about the 3 kinds of enlightenment. So the first one, this Supreme Buddha, is talking about beings who are able to discover the truth by themselves and able to teach and start their own religion. So the last week's whole list of the 7 Buddhas or the 28 Buddhas is referring to this Sammā Sambuddha, the Supreme Buddha. And for the silent Buddha, Pacceka Buddha are beings who are able to discover the truth by themselves when no one else is enlightened, same as the first one, the Supreme Buddha, but they are unable to start their own religion. That means whatever they teach, maybe the society at that time unable to accept their teachings. So that is for this second category, the silent Buddha. And the third category, which is the Arahants, this Savaka Buddha. So that's the three kinds of enlightenment, and the Arahants have to exist when the teachings are still around, when the formula for enlightenment is around. So they receive the teachings, they practice, and they reach enlightenment. So these are the three kind of categories. So in Theravada Buddhism, in my own personal opinion, it's more targeted towards the third one, the Savaka Buddha. Even though the Jataka tales or the Buddha Vamsa may talk about the Buddha's past lives and the Bodhisattva, but in the Theravada Tipitaka, there's no mention on the Buddha teaching a syllabus on to his disciples on how to become a Samma Sambuddha. So there isn't any like syllabus, there's no path, no stages involved in this Supreme Buddha. And most of these stages and these paramitas are classified by commentators. So the commentators come up with like a generic pathway of our historical Buddha, how he practiced and became Samma Sambuddha. But the Buddha himself, our historical Buddha, didn't give any teaching for his disciples, to ask them to become a Buddha in future. So that is more for Mahayana Buddhism. So in Mahayana Buddhism, they have sutras to encourage their disciples to become a future Samma Sambuddha. All right, so that's the main difference. So for the silent Buddha, somehow that's more like the unpopular choice. It's like if you get enlightened, but you can't really teach anybody. So most people will aim for number 1 or number 3. Right, that's the two more popular options. And we also talk about the time span on achieving this Samma, this Buddhahood. And we haven't talked about that yet. So okay, based on some estimates, a Supreme Buddha requires minimum 4 great eons. Around there, that's an estimate. 3 or 4 great eons. That means 4 universe cycles. So it is believed that our historical Buddha took 4 great eons to become a Buddha. From the first time he was sort of appointed or predicted by Dipankara Buddha to become a future Buddha. So from that point onwards, they calculated 4 great eons, 4 great universe cycles. And these 4 great eons are meant for a bodhisattva who is wisdom inclined. That means beings who are very wise, you take 4 eons. And let's say bodhisattvas, if they are not so wise, let's say they are more energetic, you guess how long they'll take? They are more like energy inclined. So it is believed these bodhisattvas require 8 great eons. 8 great eons, and 2 times longer than the wisdom inclined bodhisattva. Then there's a third category. There's a faith-based bodhisattva. So if a bodhisattva is not wisdom inclined, not energy inclined, then they are considered as faith-based inclined. So if they just based on faith, they require 16 eons, 16 great eons to become a Samma Sambuddha. So again, these are very incalculable time, so it's just good to know only. I don't have to be too worried about that. And also based on the same kind of commentaries, it's already believed that in this world system, there's already like, I think 1,000 Buddhas in place for this eon, 1,000 Buddhas in queue. So basically we don't have a chance, to become a Sammasambuddha, right? At least for this eon. So there's already 4 Buddhas have passed. So there are probably 996 left, waiting up in heaven or two-seater heaven or something. So they are just waiting to take their turn one by one to come down and eventually become a Buddha. So again, that's some post-canonical idea. Yeah? Okay, next. Yep, so we covered this, different Buddhas. Next slide. Okay, next slide. Okay, so we're going to talk about the scriptures, right? Where are the sources of these paramitas or the paramis? And you can find it in this, if you look at the squares from the top left, and we slowly go down from left to right, row by row. So the Khuddaka Nikaya, so that's the, I would say the 5th Nikaya of the Tipitaka. So these are the collection of little texts. So including the Dhammapada is also inside this Khuddaka Nikaya. Yeah? So there are many, many different subcategories inside the Khuddaka Nikaya. So one of them you have these birth stories, Jataka tales, the past life stories of the Buddha, which is also in the Khuddaka Nikaya. And you have the Buddha Vangsa, history of the past Buddhas. So not just the Jataka tales, but other Buddha, basically the other 28 Buddhas inside this Buddha Vangsa. And then you have this Charya Pitaka, right? Talking about the so-called their practice involved when the Bodhisattva was training, what kind of practices they have. So the commentaries of this Charya Pitaka will subdivide each parami into 3 categories. So you have one, for example, let's say we talk about generosity parami, the perfection of generosity. So they call it dana parami. Then they divide it into 3. So you have one ordinary kind of dana parami, and then you have something higher called the dana upaparami, and you have something greater called the dana paramatta parami. So they divide it into 3 kind of categories. One is ordinary, one is higher, and one is superior. So there are 3 kinds of this kind of classifications. So in the Jataka tales, not all the stories mention training of any specific parami. Some of them do, like for example, like this one I'm giving here, this Visantara Jataka. Yeah? So in the past life of the Buddha, one of his past life, he was called Prince Visantara. And according to the story, he was handed down, the father, which is a king, handed the kingdom over to this prince, Vesantara. So now he's become a king Vesantara. So at a very early age, when he got married, then straight away the father gave him this throne. So he's a king, and he was practicing this generosity. So he was very generous. He gave away a lot of the wealth to the poor, the needy, and he gave away so much items, and the kingdom was flourishing. So everything was okay. And it was believed that, according to the story, the neighboring kingdom was suffering very badly, having poverty and drought and famine. So one of the emissaries or the ambassadors came over and requested this King Vesantara for their national treasure. So this King Vesantara, their kingdom had this white elephant, and people believe that the white elephant will bring them rain in proper times. So basically that's the national treasure of the kingdom. And the other kingdom wanted this white elephant. So this King Vesantara was a very generous king. So he looked at the other kingdom and found them suffering and poverty. So to him, he said, okay, just give away the white elephant. So he agreed. He gave away the white elephant. So after giving away the white elephant, all his subjects, all the ministers, the advisors under him, was not happy, was starting to get upset over this King Vesantara. And they started to complain to the previous king, the father of this King Vesantara. So somehow they had a motion and decided to ask him to step down from his position, which he did. So he stepped down the position and gave the kingship back to his father. So he was like, to appease the people, he decided to leave the kingdom and become a hermit. That means he just live alone and meditate and whatever not else. So not only he himself leave the kingdom, he brought his entire family, right? His wife and I think 2 children, to live in the forest. So when he was living inside the forest, everything was fine. They were practicing these vows as a hermit, having celibacy, and the family was okay with it. And the family was somehow okay with it. And after some time, there's a stranger who wanted a slave. So because last time the land probably quite big, and there wasn't instant telecommunication, so he still believed that this Prince Vesantara or this Hermit Vesantara was still having this offer to give away items, give away things. So he wanted to request servants and slaves. So he went to this now Hermit Vesantara and demanded or requested for 2 servants to fetch water, basically, fetch water from the well. And this hermit or this Prince Vesantara have nothing left. So he only has these 2 children. He has 2 children. So he decided to give away the children to this stranger. And I think this the stranger doesn't know that that's the children, and he tied them up, beat them, and dragged them away. And this Prince Vesantara was like still controlling the anger, and eventually decided not to retaliate and attack this stranger. And even eventually, sort of felt happy for practicing his generosity. So this one is eyebrow raiser. So this is very interesting. I would say one of the extremes of giving, or so-called in the pursuit of practicing generosity. Somehow it is quite skewed, and I think in normal moral standards today, I think any parent would disagree with this. Any parent here agree with giving away their children? No. So this is the eyebrow raiser, but somehow it's being extolled in the Jataka as practicing Dana Parami. So the wife came back to the house and found that the children is gone, and she was very upset. And the husband, which is this Prince Vesantara, told the wife what happened, and she also rejoiced. I do not know what's going on with the family, so they all rejoiced. And this time round, this heavenly being, this King Saka, Devaraja, in the realm of these 33 gods. So this King Saka felt that this Bodhisattva might also give away the wife. So he decided, in order not for him to give away the wife, manifest himself as another stranger to demand for the wife. Right? So this King Saka appeared as a human form and asked this hermit, Prince Vesantara, for his wife. And guess what? Do you think Prince Vesantara gave away the wife? Yeah, he gave away the wife. Yeah, so this Prince Vesantara gave away the wife, and upon giving, this King Saka, this heavenly being, remanifested himself as a deity form, heavenly form, and sort of gave back the wife to this bodhisattva, right? Yeah, so that's the story. So in the end, I think there's a happy ending. He was called back to the kingdom, and the children was guided by the devas back to him, right? So imagine if there's no divine intervention, I think the children will still be lost and ill-treated by the stranger. So that's the story of this Jataka, yeah? And some of the so-called contradictions, where some of you was asking before that whether the Jataka tales is true. So the first red flag is the giving of the children and the wife, right? Most of the other suttas when the Buddha was teaching, I mean when we can find the main suttas, we discussed it in the previous series on gratitude. Taking care of the children, that's part of the blessing. Taking care of the wife, that's part of the blessing. Not to give them away, right? So if you give them away, it's kind of contradicting the teachings of the Buddha. So that's one of the main red flags. And also in the story, in the Jataka tales, it was mentioned that when he was still, before he was exiled, this King Vesantara, when he was giving away a lot of items, there was earthquake, like some kind of, something like the supernatural phenomenon to rejoice in this deed. So there's an earthquake. When he gave away his children, there's earthquake. When he gave away his wife, there's earthquake. When he became a king again, reunited with his family, there's earthquake again. So this is another contradiction with this Mahaparinibbana Sutta. And the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, Venerable Ananda was experiencing this earthquake, and the Buddha sort of agreed to pass away with this Mara. The Buddha sort of agreed with Mara. So Venerable Ananda was asking the Buddha, what is the causes of earthquakes? So the Buddha mentioned 8 reasons. And none of the 8 reasons mentioned about this giving away items and earthquake. So things like the Buddha's birth, there's earthquake, he's mentioned the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, the enlightenment, the passing away, and stuff like that. So there's earthquake. So that's some of the contradictions. But other than that, some of the stories in the Jataka tales have some moral values, some are just good reads. Some of the stories may not even include the Bodhisattva inside. The Bodhisattva never go through these life lessons. Some of them is more like the third party, either observing or just temporarily assisting the main characters of the story, right? So total, I think the Theravada Jataka, there's like 500 over stories. So that's the example of this perfection parami. And for dana, right? Let's say when we talk about dana and karma and merits, normally there are 2 aspects. One is the mundane aspect of giving. For example, you give something and then maybe the next life you get rich. So that's the mundane kind of workings of the dana. The mundane aspect of dana. Sometimes you do good and then you receive reward. So there's a mundane workings of dana. And you have the transcendental workings of dana, which is you practice dana for liberation, inner peace and happiness. So that's the transcendental, supramundane kind of workings of dana. So you have the mundane and the supramundane. So in this case, this dana parami, what do you think is the dana parami aiming at? Is it aiming for the mundane kind of reward or aiming for the supramundane? Some of you say the supramundane. Okay, if you want to talk about mundane, then we can compare with this Arahant Sivali in the Buddha's time. The Buddha has a disciple called this Venerable Sivali. And Venerable Sivali is known to be the foremost in receiving gifts. foremost in receiving gifts because his past lives, he also practiced lots of charity, lots of generosity, to the extent that in his final lifetime, this Arahant Sivali will not get hungry, will not have anything deficient. Everything is sufficient. All the needs, all the material needs are sufficient. So that's the merit of this Venerable Arahant Sivali. So if Dana Parami were to be a mundane kind of dana, then Venerable Arahant Sivali would be more perfect than the Buddha. And because the Buddha himself, when he go for alms round, sometimes he never receive food. The Buddha will get hungry. The Buddha will get starving. So that's the difference. Whereas Venerable Sivali never experienced hunger, always sufficient. So that's the story. So if the paramis are not targeted to be the mundane workings of this the karma, then it would be aiming for the supramundane, talking about liberation. Right? So if you talk about liberation, then there may not necessarily need for that many lifetimes. So later on, maybe later, I think next few lessons, we might cover certain suttas that talk about dana and what kind of reflections are needed, which doesn't require that many lifetimes. Okay, next. Okay, so these are the so-called 10 perfections. We sort of enlarge the table so we have a few perfections at a time. So the left column, you can see the paramis, the perfections, right? So at the top row is an explanation. So parami means completeness or perfection. Para means beyond. Parama, highest. Paramita, perfection. Right? So these are the Pali words for it. Okay, so in the left column you have 5. So you have the generosity, which we talked about earlier, this dana parami. And the second one down, you have this virtue or your morality called the sila parami. And the third one is this nekama parami. Nekama parami, which is renunciation. And the fourth one, panya parami, wisdom. And the fifth one, virya parami, which means energy. So the next column talks about the characteristics, right? So dana parami, or the giving, is to relinquish items, right? And virtue is to composing yourself, be a composed person. Renunciation is to have restraint. And this wisdom parami is to have clarity of the mind. And energy, right? Energy parami is to have some striving, to strive for your this perfect goal. Okay, and the function. How does it help others? So the dana parami, or giving, dispels greed. Virtue or morality is to have blameless conduct. Renunciation is to we call verification and satisfactoriness of sense pleasure. So basically it's to basically have some comparison between the state of mind when a person is still clinging to sense pleasure versus not clinging to sense pleasures. Okay, and the fourth one, wisdom, talks about illuminate objective field, makes the mind illuminated. And for energy is to fortify your practice. You strive and you develop it further. Okay, and for, we call it manifestation, wishing for the well-beings of others. Right, so it talks about giving. Generosity is to practice non-attachment, and down the line for morality, for moral purity, then for renunciation to lessen your attachment, for wisdom, for non-confusion, and for energy is for, well, indefatigability. Fatigue means tired, so basically not make you so tired, right? And the proximal cause, what's the how to activate this compassion, right? And for giving, we have an object that can be relinquished. And for virtue, because you have moral shame and moral fear, moral dread, so that activates your precepts or your virtue. And for renunciation, you have spiritual urgency, awareness of pain of desire, because desire is painful, craving is painful, then you want to renounce. Okay, for wisdom, you have concentration, insight into the Four Noble Truths, right? So it can be the jhanic concentration or the vipassana kind of concentration. Okay, and the fifth one, energy, talks about spiritual urgency, faith in the Four Noble Truths. Right, so these are the proximal causes. Then we move on quickly, cover the other 5. So the 6th parami is patience. So I'll just read through row by row. So the characteristic is acceptance. The function is to cultivate endurance. And the manifestation is tolerance. So if you tolerate, means you have practicing this Khanti parami. So when I was involved in these inter-religious kind of events, they will tell you tolerance is not good enough. You must go beyond tolerance. You must go to communicating the other and mutual understanding and acceptance. Tolerance means you treat the other thing as bad, the other thing as bad. So when you keep on receiving, there will be a point of time they reach the maximum, then you blow up. You cannot tolerate anymore. So tolerance is like giving a negative connotation, right? It's more like you're tanking and withholding. So there's tolerance. And the proximal cause for patience is the seeing things as they are. Yeah, seeing things as they are. So then you have this patience. So if a person has wisdom, then it won't be tolerating. You can sublimate this unpleasantness with right reflection, and it will transform into wisdom. Okay, and the next one we have truthfulness, called Satya Parami, non-deceptiveness. Function is to cultivate authenticity, and manifestation is excellence, and the proximal cause is honesty. Right, so if you observe the precept of not telling lies, then you are practicing this truthfulness. Yeah? And next down the line, you have determination, adhitthana parami. So the characteristic is steadfastness. Function is to sustain clarity, and manifestation is to have tenacity, and proximal cause, spiritual urgency, factors of enlightenment. So this is very similar to this striving, this energy, which is the 5th parami, which we talked about earlier. And the 9th one, loving kindness, which we are sort of constantly practicing, metta parami. So the characteristic is friendliness, promoting welfare of all beings. Function is to remove resentment. Manifestation is kindness. And the proximal cause is seeing the good in other people. Right? Seeing the good in other people. So that's the one of the ways to practice. So in our routine, we practice the non-discriminative approach. So all beings experience the elements and the 5 aggregates. So everybody will have this minimal goodness. Okay. Then the 10th parami is equanimity, upekkha parami, and the characteristic is neutrality. Right, and the function is impartiality. Manifestation is subsiding of desire. And the proximal cause is understanding karma. Yeah? So normally for the fourth sublime state, we reflect on karma. Yeah, the equanimity sublime state. All beings are the owners of the actions. We reap what we sow. So we keep reflecting on karma in all our sensations. Then the mind will be brought into equanimity. Alright, so these are the 10 paramis. Alright, so I'll end the sharing here. We'll talk more in the next sessions. Okay, any questions at the moment from anyone in the crowd, in the Zoom chat room?
Sorry, Bante.
Yep.
Bante, what you mentioned, what you said earlier, right? So if we can't accept the whole thing as a package, is that considered wrong view?
The whole what?
Like what you earlier on you shared about the Jakarta story.
Okay.
We find personally, I find very difficult to accept. But if you don't accept, is it considered wrong view?
So in Buddhism, we have the spirit of free inquiry. Spirit of free inquiry. So we have the Kalama Sutta, to not simply believe the scriptures or what the Buddha said. So you need to see whether is it beneficial for ourselves and others. For ourselves and others. So that's also whether is it praised by the wise. So there are many criteria for to decide whether is it useful or good. So in the case of giving away children, it's I think in most people's context, I think it's not really acceptable. Yeah, so I don't think it's you don't need to be scientific to accept whether animals can talk to human or not. But in terms of this moral, like the here and now, if you were to give away your close one to a stranger and let them beat up your close one, I think it's something is wrong. Yeah.
Thank you, Bante.
All right. It kind of triggers this moral dread, also makes a person guilty. Remorse. So it contradicts the other paramis. Okay, someone asked a question in the chat room. Why when you dana food there's no earthquake? Very good question, because you're not in the Jataka stories, you're not featured in Jataka tales. Because in the main Nikayas, like we talk about the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, the Buddha actually gave 8 reasons for earthquake. I can't remember the 8, so let me quickly look through the 8. Okay, so the 8 reasons. So the first reason is because I just briefly read through from this quote from the Mahaparinibbana Sutta. This great earth, Ananda, is established upon liquid, the liquid upon atmosphere, and the atmosphere upon space. And when Ananda, mighty atmospheric disturbances take place, the liquid is agitated, and with the agitation of the liquid, tremors of the earth arise. This is the first reason, right? First cause of the mighty earthquake. So basically, the first cause is probably geographical reasons, maybe tectonic movement or whatever kind of movement on the earth or in the space or cosmic reasons that cause these earthquakes. So that's the first one. And the second reason is when a holy person, holy man of great power, one who has gained mastery of the mind and they focus intense concentration on the earth element, on the liquid element, and cause the earth to tremble, quiver and shake. So that's the second reason of this earthquake. Then the third reason, when the Bodhisattva departs from Tusita heaven and descends into the mother's womb. So that's the third reason. And when the fourth reason, when the Bodhisattva come up from the mother's womb, that means when they give labor, mindfully and clear comprehending. So that's the fourth reason. The fifth reason, when the Tathagata becomes fully enlightened, becomes have reached supreme enlightenment. That's the fifth reason. And the sixth reason, when the Tathagata sets the rolling of the wheel of Dhamma, when the Buddha gives his teaching of the Four Noble Truths and Eightfold Path. So that's the sixth reason. Seventh reason, when the Tathagata renounces his will to live. That means when the Buddha decided to want to give up his life. Yeah. And the eighth reason, when the Buddha eventually passed away into parinibbana. Right. So that's the 8 reasons for this earthquake. So none of them mention about this earth shaking when giving food. Right. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, there's no issues. Okay, so we are looking in this perspective. Both Eileen and Nelly asked this question because we are looking in terms of spirit of free inquiry. So anyway, we do not know what happened in the past, whether it's earthquake or not. It may be coincidental, may not have to do anything in the giving. Might be just random earthquake happening anyway. But in any case, the whole idea is to learn the real moral of the story, right? And of course, anything that is detrimental to the practice, we can sieve it away. Anything that's useful, then we take up for our practice. Yeah. So that's the takeaway for the Jataka tales. Okay. Then if there's no issues, we go for a 5-minute break. We'll come back later for the guided meditation. Okay, let's wait for the rest to return. So while waiting for the rest, anyone want to suggest any future topics for discussion?
Okay, what about karma?
Karma, okay, we did cover that before. So karma in relation to what exactly?
Because karma is very wide, so it's like a lot of things we do is directly or indirectly is also involve karma. So
Okay.
Like wholesome karma is karma, unwholesome karma is also karma. Sometimes we do something in hope of helping somebody, but in the end, it's a bad karma. So how do we see that, as a lay, and how do we practice? But sometimes people say not everything is karma. However, if you say not everything is karma, when there's a cause, there's an effect. Just like even not that we want to talk about politics, but in many even like current times, because of certain countries, they have these natural disasters. But what is the cause? And there should be a cause, and there should be an effect. So yeah, if can, I can. If not, it's okay. But
Okay, very good point. Yeah, so we might talk a bit about this different cause and effect. Yep. Okay, so we have a few more questions on the chat. Which sutta contains the 10 parami? So for your question, there's no sutta that mentions parami, as in the Buddha didn't teach like you should do this perfection and whatnot, but they are all separated. Like for example, loving kindness. There's a sutta that talks about loving kindness and how you practice loving kindness until you reach enlightenment. So that is one example, or a practice of renunciation, this nekama. Renunciation doesn't necessarily means just leaving your layperson life into a monastic life. So the Buddha talks about this, I think the Tapusa Sutta, different levels of renunciation, the states of mind, how they let go sensuality and enter different levels of concentration until they reach enlightenment. So that is also this nekama parami. So it's not really mentioned as a parami, but the quality itself is mentioned in the sutta. Yeah. So somebody asked, why Mara in heaven? Yeah, why Mara is in heaven? Yeah, so it's a very good question. It's just like asking, because Mara is known to be like the evil one in our eyes. In the Buddhist kind of circles, Mara is like the devil or the demon. He kind of disturbed the Buddha. So it's like animals or insects. After human destroy their habitat or destroy their home or kill them, then you're asking, why human higher than us? Why the human is considered higher than us? Something like that. So different heavenly realms have different sort of, I would say, function, different probably kind of food to eat also. Some of them feast on, I would say, human kind of craving and desire. Yeah, some of these spirits or beings. So yeah, but because they are sort of more meritorious in the past, they've done more merit, so that's why they are born in a higher realm. Hopefully that answers your question. Anyone else? Okay, if there's no issues, then we can start with the meditation routine. So you find a comfortable sitting posture, make sure the back's upright and the rest of the body relaxed. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is do a bit of visualization of the body. We're going to think of all the hairs from head to toe, and we wish them well and happy. So the visualization of the body part is part of mindfulness of the body, and the wishing it well and happy, that's part of right thought, and the repetition, that's part of right effort. So because we're in the theme of the paramis, then we can talk about cultivating this energy, right? Effort parami. New patch of hair, well and happy. New patch of hair, well and happy. And then we can discern, practicing this wisdom, panya parami, whether the mind, is it more agitated or is it getting calmer, more settled down? Part of understanding craving and agitation of the mind. How does application of the Noble Eightfold Path reduce this agitation and craving? If you find your mind quite settled down to this baseline emotion, then that's the minimum requirement for insight. So now we are going to reflect all these hairs go through birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. So we think of them growing and falling, many, many cycles. And as we keep looping this process, we can observe the arising and passing of the 5 aggregates. So practicing detachment, part of renunciation and giving. And also to further develop wisdom. And the more we keep reflecting on impermanence, we can observe this sense of self. Is it increasing or decreasing? And this sense of selfishness and ego. Okay, and we can ask ourselves, are these hairs truly self? Can we tell the hairs not to go through birth and death? So next we can think of the nails, fingernails and toenails. May they be well and happy. And all these nails go through birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. So you think of the nails growing and falling, many, many cycles. Whole idea is fast forward this birth and death process. No need to over dramatize, don't need to think of what kind of equipment you use, what kind of products. And we can ask ourselves, are these nails truly self? Can we tell the nails not to go through birth and death? So next we can think of the teeth, all the teeth inside the mouth. May they be well and happy. And all these teeth go through birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. So you think of the teeth growing and falling, many, many cycles. Even though our teeth fall off the most twice, we just keep repeating. Fast forward the process, teeth growing, teeth falling. And we can ask ourselves, are these teeth truly self? Can we tell the teeth not to go through birth and death? And next we can think of the skin. We wish all the skin well and happy from head to toe. Every patch of skin we wish them well and happy. And all these skin are subject to birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. So you think of them growing and falling, many, many cycles. Then we can ask ourselves, are this skin truly self? Can we tell the skin not to go through birth and death? Okay, so the next phase of meditation, we are doing the sublime states. So there's no need to visualize anymore. We're just feeling the sensations, mindful of the four elements of the body: earth, fire, wind, water sensations. Earth represents any hard or soft sensations. Fire is hot and cold. Wind is fast, slow movements. And water is moist or dry sensations. So there's no need to deliberately control or generate any of them. We let them appear naturally by themselves. And once you can detect any sensation, we just wish them well and happy. A new sensation, well and happy. New sensation appear, well and happy. The whole idea is to make peace with them, not to struggle, not to fight. Any feeling appear, also the same thing. Can be painful feeling, uncomfortable feelings, nice feelings. Also wish them well and happy. Okay, once your mind has reached this baseline kind of emotion, then we're going to wish, take note of this emotion. We call this the restricted form of loving kindness. And now we're going to cultivate a boundless loving kindness. We're going to wish all beings in all directions well and happy, above, below, and all across. So there is no need to push the mind. We let it expand naturally by itself. However far you wish to extend doesn't matter. And within that increased area of attention, whatever sensation we detect, we wish all beings well and happy. So we perceive all beings as being made of these elements. So no need to visualize. Once we visualize, then the mind will categorize and stereotype based on my past experience with this group of beings or that group of beings, this person or that person, I have this experience or that experience. So this will limit or restrict the loving kindness. So we are not going to visualize at this moment. Every sensation, we wish all beings well and happy. New sensation appear. May all beings be well and happy. So the sensation can appear inside the body or outside the body, near or far. Doesn't matter, as long as you detect something. We wish all beings well and happy. Okay, if all the causes and conditions are correct, you generate right thought all the time, right effort, and one may trigger this right concentration. So in the first level of concentration, normally there's this joy and happiness. So if there's any increase of joy and happiness compared to the baseline emotion, and that would indicate the first level of concentration. And regardless of what you experience, keep on wishing all beings well and happy. get some insight, some wisdom. We're going to reflect. All beings, all sensations, they are impermanent. They come and go every moment. So the same thing, we use the real-time evidence as the mindfulness. And for the labeling, we use impermanence, or any label associated with impermanence. You can use rising and falling, anicca, inconstant. So you just keep repeating. If the joy and happiness start to disappear, and one may experience this neutral and refreshing kind of emotion, so we call that equanimity, usually associated with the fourth level of concentration. So regardless of what you experience, keep on reflecting on impermanence. Treat everything else as byproduct. Next, we move on to the fourth sublime state, which is equanimity. This perfection of equanimity. And we use the reflection of karma. All beings are subjected to karma. We reap what we sow. And for for this routine, there's no need to speculate what we've done in the past. We just observe sensations happening real time. Any pleasant sensations arising, then that's due to good karmas ripening. Any unpleasant arising, then that's due to bad karmas ripening. And any neutral sensation, and that's neutral karmas ripening. So in short, all experiences are conditioned by karma. And if your mind is accepting of karma and settles down, it will also experience this equanimity of the fourth level of concentration, this neutral and refreshing experience. And regardless of what you experience, keep on reflecting on karma. Even concentrative states are also part of karma. Okay, then we're going to add some insight, some wisdom, and we're going to reflect how to overcome these karmas. When good karma ripen, we feel happy. Bad karma ripen, we feel sad. So the mind always up and down, roller coaster, having this mood swing problem, always get dragged around. So you want to have stability of mind. So we have this reflection of impermanence of feelings. So all pleasant, unpleasant, neutral feelings, we observe how they arise and pass away. So the evidence is still the sensation, these elements, whatever elements, whatever feelings that accompany the elements, we observe how they arise and pass away. So when the mind is more neutral, have some neutrality, then it's easier to investigate these 5 aggregates, 5 clinging aggregates: form, feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. So the form aggregate are the 4 elements: the earth, fire, wind, water, element sensations. That's the form aggregate. And together there's also the feeling aggregate, where they find it pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And the 3rd aggregate is called perception. All the labels you give it, you call it the earth element, or you call it a feeling, pleasant feeling, or you call it fire element. All these perceptions, all the labelings. And the 4th aggregate is basically karmic formations, mental formations. Every time the thought is generated, any element is generated, any feeling is generated, that's due to karmas. Why do you experience a pleasant feeling? Yeah, that's the karma's ripening. Why do you experience this unpleasant feeling? Because certain karmas ripen. So that's part of mental formation, karmic formations. That's the 4th aggregate. And together you have the 5th aggregate, which is called consciousness, which is your attention. You're paying attention to this feeling right now, or this sensation right now. So all these are the 5 clinging aggregates, 5 in 1. So your job now is to observe the impermanent nature of the 5 aggregates. You can just choose one at a time. You don't have to do all 5. And the challenge is to see how far can the mind detach. How far can you perfect this wisdom, this mind? Okay, so before we conclude, due to time constraints, same gentle reminder: all these sublime states, regardless of all activities, standing, sitting, walking, or lying down, as long as we maintain these boundless sublime states, then this is the noblest living. And with that, we can gently open our eyes, formally end the session, but informally still can generate right thought. Okay, any questions or problems from anyone? Okay, if there's no issues, then we can close off with the dedication of merit. Okay, Anumodana. Akasata ca bhumata devanaga mahitika punyang tang anumoditva cirang rakantu loka sasanang etavata ca amhehi sampadang punya sampadang sabbe deva sabbe buddha sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampati siddhya. Dedication of merits to departed. Idang me nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Aspiration. Imina punya kamena mame bala samagamo. Satang samagamo hotu yavani bana patiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And we pay respects to the Buddha by bowing 3 times. First bow. Second bow. Third bow.